Well, it's interesting. I mean, right now, you have the lead scientist of the UN turning on Pachauri. Now, keep in mind, Pachauri, the head, for your audience to remember, the smut peddler, was the Nobel Prize winner, the media darling for years, and his entire identity is this job. In fact, this Indian magazine, which is where Pachauri's from, says, quote, Pachauri, his degree and training is in railroad engineering. This man was educated to make railroads run from point A to B. He will not. I cannot see him voluntarily resigning. He's going to have to be forced out. But what they're going to do, they're already talking about a new organization. They're talking about moving it over to the EU. They're basically going to acknowledge that the climate panel was deeply flawed. Pachauri's going to probably be booted out, and they're going to turn this over to some other international body, probably the Economic Forum or some branch of the EU and Europe. And then they're going to try to go forward. They're going to institute a whole series of high-minded reforms. But guess what? Beneath it, it's probably going to be the same core scientists. What this really exposed, and the reason I've been putting pictures of the Wizard of Oz at Climate Depot, is this was probably only 40 to 50, 60 scientists at the core of it. There's only 52, 53 scientists who authored the media summary for policymakers. Those were the core activists. Of that, only 60 scientists signed off on the idea that man-made emissions cause global warming. Well, since those reports have come out, there have been just an abundance of studies throwing cold water all over it, and UN scientists now eating crow, talking about water vapor, talking about coming global cooling predictions. So the movement has to reinvent itself in some way. But what I'm
all right, Mark, let me say this.
I think it's mortally wounded. I think they're going to find a new eco-scare. I think they're going to have to, or at least some hybrid of this.
Well, what they're doing in Austin and other cities is they just call it jobs creation and green jobs and say we're going to put a big tax on you. And the whole pretext was over the man-made global warming, but now they're just not using that term. But going back here, and then we're going to phone calls. Mark Moreno of Climate Depot right now is our guest. Looking at this, they don't care. Obama doesn't care. He says he's going to have the EPA go ahead and implement it. Europe is doing this. Gordon Brown said they're going to have the IMF and World Bank start collecting the climate data, the carbon footprint data. The cities are already doing it. So don't we need Congress to have hearings and drag the oil company CEOs who've been supporting this, Dutch Roll, Shell, BP, to drag Al Gore in, who's making money off the windmill companies and off of the carbon trading? Don't we need to have criminal investigation hearings to put these guys up on the stand and show them for the crooks they are? Wouldn't that be the true death blow and really finger them for the crooks they are?
Well, Alex, here's the problem with that. I agree. I mean, this is essentially huge elements, if not outright racketeering. You have Al Gore lobbying Congress for a cap-and-trade carbon trading bill. At the same time, he's working with a firm called Kleiner Perkins and the Chicago Stock Exchange to put in $1 billion in 40 different companies. And keep in mind, this billion-dollar investment in these carbon trading companies is worthless unless Congress passes a mandate. So Al Gore's got a personal financial interest. Congress would go nuts if this were, the bankers. It would go nuts if this were auto executives. But because they're greenies, they're left alone. But here's the scary part. You would think that Wall Street would have been dragged in and prosecuted. I mean, a few people went down. But what was Congress's reaction to the scandal on Wall Street? Bailout. The biggest thing we have to fear in the throes of victory here is that the Congress may come out and bail out the global warming movement. And I'm not sure exactly what form that could take, but there's going to be,
they're going to do it at the city level.
The collapse of the carbon market. So you don't know that it's a perversion the way these things work. When you least expect it, they're going to end up getting propped up somehow.
Well, Mark, here's how they're propping them up. And I've been watching them closely. Schwarzenegger said this the last day of Copenhagen with the governor and mayor's conference. They're going with the EPA at the federal level because they can't get the Senate to do it. Basically strong arm the cities into doing it, and the cities will fund these private companies, and that's where the big fight is. Let's go to some phone calls. Laura in Texas, you're on the air with Mark Moreno. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex. I remember when you'd say, once they lie, they have to lie again and again. Well, this is blatant lies in Rolling Stone magazine saying, you idiots, meet the planet's worst enemies. Yeah, it came out January 21st of 2010, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, this is that's just sort of this bathroom humor for Rolling Stone. They did, I think it was 16 profiles. I was number 6 on the list of the climate idiot. They're called climate killers. You know, Rolling Stone is it's a pure entertainment. It's something to keep on your coffee table and laugh. But the fact that they're doing an issue like that shows they know that their goose is
well, they can't do this anymore. I mean, they sit up there as the big mommy, the big daddy, and they tell us what's real and they tell us what isn't. They're discredited. It doesn't work anymore. When the mainstream media writes hit pieces about me, we only get more listeners because 90% of the public goes, Alex Jones or Mark Moreno must be good if the mainstream media is going after him.
Exactly. I mean, it's a badge of honor. Absolutely. In fact, when you look across what's happened in the last year, as this started collapsing, Talking Points memo, a big talking point for MSNBC and the talk radio of the left, they had a big post saying, isn't it time to start executing global warming skeptics? And then we had Grist magazine a few years back calling for Nuremberg-style trials for skeptics of global warming. They call them deniers to bring up the Holocaust. So you know a movement is corrupt and fraudulent when not only will the leader, Al Gore, not debate and the UN will not allow any dissension, but when they start threatening and intimidation, and that's, again, what ClimateGate revealed. They redefined peer review. They corrupted.
This is a group of crooks.
And again, thank God they've been exposed. I don't know how any politician in America could vote for a global warming bill in any state, even in Massachusetts at this point. We had Scott Brown.
I hear you. Let's jam in another call. Thanks, sure. Laura. Great point. Pete in Michigan, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I got a couple of questions for the guy sitting there with you, and then I wanted to tell you something.
Mark Moreno, ClimateDepot.com. Go ahead.
Okay, real quick, I just wanted to say on some of the websites and different things, people are saying that there's going to be solar flares in 2012 and total destruction of the Earth. And
well, that's NASA saying mega flare to hit the Earth then, and I assure you your SUV has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, well, they're saying that the government's going into these bunkers. Well, that kind of conflicts with things. Why would they rob us blind if we're all going to be dead anyways? But the question for your climate guy is, I was wondering, I had a theory. You know, I know climate, the heat rising and all that's a bunch of crap, but is it possible that us as humans using up all of our different resources here on Earth, that we are altering the density of the Earth plus or minus, thus changing the orbit of the Earth because of its effects?
All right, we're going to come back and get the I've asked scientists about this. The amount of human activity is negligible compared to other natural processes like volcanoes and other things. But we'll get Mark Moreno's take on that. But don't worry, if you pay a tax to Al Gore, you buy an indulgence, a carbon indulgence from him, like you'd buy from the Pope 500 years ago.